Virgil van Dijk's quite clearly getting a lot of stick for the first goal. I mean, it's pretty shambolic from sort of start to finish, I suppose. You got James Milner diving across, and I suppose committing himself. If Jadon Sancho takes a shot there and he blocks it, he's done the right thing and he's a hero. But it doesn't look great when Sancho obviously cuts back and has all the time in the world to then pick his spot. Alisson's committed himself as well, you could say. But yeah, for me, Virgil van Dijk has to take responsibility for that first one. We make a lot of Van Dijk when some of his best bits of defensive work has been when he doesn't act. But there's a time and a place whereby you've got to do something. And that's probably sort of when you're camped on your own 6-yard box with a Man United player in acres of space waiting to pick his spot. That's the time you should probably go out and press the player. And he didn't. He just waited. And obviously we went 1-0 down. And for the second goal, I'm not going to blame anyone for the second goal, I don't think. I might be wildly inaccurate there, but from my recollection right now, it was just... It's a sort of goal Liverpool have become very used to conceding, actually. A player breaking our high line, having turned the ball over sort of in midfield, and we get counter-attacked on. It's sort of reminiscent of a lot of goals we concede. I'm not sure I can blame. I suppose Jordan Henderson quite clearly gets to blame for that woeful touch. But yeah, outside of that, I think that's exactly the sort of thing we've been doing quite a lot of, really. So I think it's more of a collective thing, that second one, apart from, like I say, Henderson's appalling touch.
Yeah, the second goal in particular was a horrific one to concede. I thought for the first, Trent got criticised, as he always does. I think the fact that he was left 2 against 1 in that situation put him in trouble. You let Eriksen, I think it was, find room between like the defence and midfield, and you're always going to be kind of hurt when you do that. Milner obviously diving in, like you say. And I want to ask you about Van Dijk a little bit more in a second, but I'll just touch on the other goal first of all. Henderson, obviously, like you say. Also, I don't know if this is just me, but I've watched it back, and Alisson moves. He's sort of quite a long way to like the right hand side as you watch, and obviously Rashford finishes it at the near post. I might be wrong on this. That might be the best way he could possibly have approached it from a goalkeeping point of view. Like, goalkeeping's kind of harder to kind of analyze, I'd say, but it seemed like he did just leave that pretty big gap to make it easy for Rashford, sort of easier than it needed to be, because it was always going to be a really good chance. Maybe a contrast to how he approached the Elanga chance early on. Probably a slightly harder finish if Rashford has to try and go for the far post. But he probably would have scored either way, so we won't make too much of that. And also, it's annoying that Jadon Sancho, like, who's barely done anything since he joined, and Marcus Rashford, who's been dreadful for like a year or more, scored against us. And I'm not saying we're not to blame for that, but it just feels typical. I just thought I'd have that little rantish moment there. But yeah, this Van Dijk thing, to just come back to that. You are right. It is this sort of very non-combative style of defending. He stands off, and a lot of the time, like you say, it has paid dividends. But do you think he's becoming, in moments, almost too arrogant, too lax, too complacent? I don't know. It seems like maybe he just feels like he's got this sort of aura about him at times, and that he doesn't almost need to do some of the dirty work. What do you reckon?
Yeah, perhaps. I think that's obviously a fair assessment, because we've seen it now with the Zaha one last week, and obviously this one now, whereby he doesn't fully engage the attacker, and obviously results in a goal. And maybe there is a bit of aura about him that is. I'm not going to put it down to arrogance, because we've seen it come off too many times. We've seen it obviously work in our favour too many times for me to say that right now. If it was to continue to happen, then it's a different conversation. But I just think his decision making isn't quite there as it should be at the moment. And I don't necessarily, that's quite clearly not the end of the world. That's something that can be addressed quite quickly. But if I was him, I would be engaging those situations a lot faster from here on out, because quite clearly, whether it's been a conscious effort from attackers to sort of be a bit more clinical around him, because he doesn't. Like, how often have we seen him sort of, when he does engage, he comes out on top sort of 99 times out of 100. That's why a lot of attackers don't even bother. How many times have we seen players sort of realise it's Van Dijk and then turn away from the situation? But now, at the minute, opposition players have got this knack of going, yeah, I know what you're going to do. You're not going to come to me, so I'm going to be the one to make a decision, and I'm going to be the one to make that play, and it's working. So Van Dijk almost needs to recalculate his thinking, and I think that's what James Milner was almost attempting to drum into him in the immediate aftermath of the goal, because he said, from what I could lip read, was like, you need to go out to that man. And Van Dijk was almost taking it on board to say, yeah, okay, I will do. It's preposterous that he needs telling, because he's the best in the world, but quite clearly he has developed a style in his head, at least, and we have seen it sort of bear fruit as well. That means he doesn't have to go and make that challenge. His presence so often has been enough to put an opposition player off, that it meant they haven't scored. We've seen it with Son in the final. I always reference back to that one, whereby Van Dijk simply essentially being around is enough to mean that Tottenham don't equalise. But at the minute, that isn't working. Players are taking the chance against Van Dijk, and it's coming off for them. So he needs to recalibrate and start proving that he is the best defender in the world again, by actually defending and not just watching.
Yeah, I think it's a test for him. It's like you say, because he is the best, and there might be a moment now where he does need to sort of recalibrate his methods a little bit. And if he can be sort of as rock solid as usually it's for the remainder of the season, then I think he would deserve credit for like maybe recognizing the error of his ways in certain moments, and realizing that he almost just can't adopt this kind of, we talk about him being calm as you like, but maybe too calm in certain situations.